It's finally Friday. It's Friday, Friday.
Thank God it's
All right, welcome back to the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series. I'm Scott Jagow, along with Ray Paulick. We're glad to have you with us. Coming up, we'll talk about that foggy race last weekend and the coverage of it. But first, Ray, the dominoes are falling quickly on this sports gambling thing, so we gotta keep up, and it's hard to right now. The latest is that Paddy Power / Betfair / TVG is merging with FanDuel, the sports fantasy website. Very interesting development. Obviously trying to pounce on this opportunity. What was your first reaction to that?
Well, I guess my first reaction is this potentially could expose horse racing, betting on horse racing, to a huge audience. When you think of how many people participated in fantasy sports through FanDuel, if Paddy Power, Betfair, TVG has access to all of those customers, and I see no reason why they shouldn't once this deal closes, I think in the third quarter of this year, if they have access to all those customers for promotional, like, hey, did you know that you can bet on horse racing? That's a fantastic audience to be able to access. So this has great potential, I think.
Yeah, I know. It's easy to say, well, let's look at it from a negative perspective, that it's going to kind of cannibalize horse racing by having this sports gambling overtaking, the horse racing. I don't see that. I see it the way you see it. But, and because right now, if you are a sports gambling fan wanting to do that, and you want to bet on horse racing, you actually have to go sign up with a specific horse racing ADW to place a bet. It is a huge difference when it is put in front of you on a platform that you're already participating in, and it's available, and you don't have to do anything else. You just can bet on horse racing, and there's like a slate of things happening on this day. And there are many days of the year where horse racing is one of the more prominent things that's happening vis-a-vis sports. During the summer, sometimes it's just baseball on a Saturday. So I think there's a huge opportunity there to grab new participants in the game.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about that. One thing that's a little murky for me, at least, is New Jersey right now is the only state that's pretty much ready to go, unless there's an injunction or something filed by the sports leagues against them. But I don't know. I'm wondering if the brick and mortar is only legal, if you can only go to a sports book in New Jersey. I don't know how that affects online wagering.
Well, I think that's going to be interesting, but I'm sure FanDuel and these guys are thinking about this and the way that they can make it work. Because right now, TVG's hub is in Oregon, which there's a reason for that because of state laws regarding sports wagering or wagering in general. So, right. But I can bet on horse racing from my house, and many other people can too in many other states. So I'm wondering how this is going to all fall out. Whether if sports gambling isn't specifically legal in a state, does that mean I won't be able to go on FanDuel and use their platform? I don't know. I guess we're going to find out pretty soon.
I would say the lawyers are making a lot of money here. The other question, the big bad NFL, they've come out with a statement saying they want federal regulations, getting the federal government involved, and that could hamstring things a little bit if they get their way.
I don't think it's going to hamstring things. I think they've laid out, all right, we're going to go along with this, and racing better look at it this way too, by the way. It's going to happen. It's happening. It's happening quickly. But the NFL is saying, okay, we want to make sure we protect our product, our intellectual property. We want to protect customers. And then we also want to protect from integrity problems. And the fourth thing, very important, we are going to make sure that free and open data and statistics are available to people who want to wager. Racing better listen up to this, because I'm telling you, if you're on one of these platforms and you have an option to bet on sports and have free data, or I can bet on racing and have to pay for past performances. I can tell you where I'm going to go, and I tell you right now, one of the reasons I use a specific ADW is because I get my PPs for free if I'm betting, and that is a huge thing.
By the way, did you mention the NFL wants their cut too?
Of course.
That's and the other sports leagues. Yeah, the past performance thing is something I've been beating this drum for years. Equibase is going to have to turn off the toll gate and let people get data for free. It's as simple as that. Once you now move into this realm of having a choice of legally betting on sports or legally betting on racing, who's going to pay for data for horse racing, a new sport, particularly if it's a new sport that is hard to understand? Who's going to pay for that data when they can just stay in the sports betting realm and get everything they want for free?
Absolutely. Big issue. Okay. We have a poll on our website. Let us know what you think. Is this merger going to be a negative or a positive for horse racing in the long run? PaulickReport.com and share your thoughts. Ray, last weekend's Preakness had some storylines. One of them was the weather. I mean, it rained all week, the track was sloppy, but then the fog rolled in and it was a nightmare. You couldn't see a thing from where we were in the press box. And then we started thinking, well, how is NBC going to cover this? You talked to Rob Hyland from NBC Sports and asked him about how he did it, and he had some great answers.
Yeah, they really had to ad lib. When the fog rolled in, they had a plan. You know, they have a scripted plan. And then when the fog came in, they said, "How are we going to show this race?" They used cameras that they had never thought of using for actually the race itself. They had a slow motion camera at the finish line that picked up the horses after the start, and then it got them coming out of the fog at the top of the stretch to the finish. That was a camera that was not intended. The standard pan cameras that are up higher in the grandstand and a couple of cameras on towers that were up to 80 feet in the air, they couldn't use those at all. All they got was fog. So, they only switched, I think, 5 or 6 times during the race. The longest camera angle used, and fortunately they had it at the Derby and they had it at the Preakness, was something called a bat cam. And that was a moving camera on a cable that picked up the horses rounding the clubhouse turn all the way down the backstretch and into the far turn. That camera was on the horses, and it moved with the horses until it got to the end of the cable. That was on for about 45 seconds. Without that thing, we would have had 40 seconds of dead air. Poor Larry Colmus, wouldn't have been able to see a thing.
Yeah, the bat cam was a superhero for coverage of the Preakness. And Larry Colmus, poor Larry Colmus, he did a phenomenal job, between the display on the television and, seeing on the track of making it seem seamless. Dave
Rodman did a great job too on the call at the track. He was using the same cameras, I think.
On the race itself, the immediate reaction was, well, it was a win by Justify. It wasn't quite as impressive a victory as the Derby was when you consider the fractional times and the way he finished and the margin. So what did you think about that?
Well, he was hooked the whole way. He never had a breather. He was going head and head with Good Magic right from the start. I think he got the better of him because he was to the outside. But I also think that he was trained lightly for the race because, as Horatio Luro used to say, do not squeeze the lemon dry. And so Bob Baffert had to leave something in the tank for the Belmont. And he kind of got away with training him lightly, and now he can tighten him up a little bit more for the test of the champion in 3 weeks.
The right analysis there. And Mike Smith, I think, didn't push him all the way down the stretch, kind of just let him get to the wire, and Bravazzo was coming. But I think Justify still has the perfect running style for the Belmont. He's got that high cruising speed. He's shown it every single race, and he can keep going, and no one can seem to run by him. I think the only thing that's going to get him beat in the Belmont is the schedule that he's been on. He didn't start racing till mid-February. This is going to be his 6th race.
Right.
In that short period of time. That's a lot. 4 of them on muddy tracks, a tiring surface. I think when he comes into the stretch, that could be what gets him beat. And the fresh horses who skip the Preakness, like a Vino Rosso, like a Hofburg, who have that staying power, they're going to be dangerous. And it should be fun, as it always is, when it comes down to the wire there at the Belmont.
Yeah, I know that a horse like Vino Rosso, for example, who had the benefit of, the extra 2 weeks after the Derby, didn't go to the Preakness. They're going to be waiting for him.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of the Friday Show, presented by the Match Series. Ray, give us a quick update on that.
Yeah, this weekend, the Match Series, it started at Pimlico. It moves to Monmouth Park, the Salvatore Mile. Has a group of 7 salty veterans. It's going to be a good race.
Salty.
I know you
All
like
right.
that.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you next week.